What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with a Week 13 SWAC recap, and this one will probably be on a little bit of the shorter side due to most of the conference being done with their season and or on a bye week if you're like a Jackson State. But we got some big games to cover, especially the Bayou Classic and of course the round one FCS playoff game between FAMU and Southeastern Louisiana. Listen. I'm doing a live stream tonight, recapping the entire first round of the FCS playoffs. So I want all my FAMU fans, all my SWAC fans, or if you're just an FCS fan in general, man, make sure to tune in tonight. We're going to get after it and we're going to break down all the first round games and also do a quick look ahead to round two. And of course, y'all know on Thursday night we're doing our live stream round two preview because we have some Friday night games, so I had to move that one up. And of course, y'all can catch all the conference championship breakdowns right here. Right here on the Blue Bloods, man. They're coming all week long. So any conference championship you're looking forward to, you're going to be able to find a preview right here on the Blue Bloods. But let's get into it, man. We had Southeastern Louisiana dominating FAMU this weekend, 38-14 in the first round of the FCS playoffs in Hammond, Louisiana this weekend. And man, I had a lot of takeaways on this game. I mean, for one, I picked FAMU. I thought this was the matchup they wanted. I know a lot of people wanted Kennesaw, but listen, tune in tonight, man, because Kennesaw put on a performance this weekend, but it played right into your strength because the strength of this team is the passing game, but your secondary all season long really matched up well with them. And you had the pass rush all season long to get to Cole Kelly and disrupt him. And Southeastern Louisiana's defense has not been the strongest this year. Just came off giving up a career day to Nickel State's running back. I mean, they ran for almost 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. So for me, this played perfectly into FAMU's strengths. But man, if you would have told me Rashawn McKay would have 40 passing attempts this weekend and that Bishop Bonnet would have 9 carries, I would have told y'all easily without even blinking that FAMU would have lost this game. I don't know what happened to the game plan for Willie Simmons. I don't know what the game plan was coming into the game for the Rattlers. But for me, I just want to do some comparisons here. I said one, it could not become a Cole Kelly versus Rashawn McKay battle. Rashawn McKay had 40 passing attempts to Cole Kelly's 45. Then the key was to run the football, and I said that FAMU needed to have minimum 40 to 50 rushing attempts. They had 19. Southeastern, which isn't a running first team, had 44. So I don't understand what the game plan was coming in. For me, going back, I watched the game a second time on Sunday. It really looked like FAMU wasn't ready to be down like they were. Once Southeastern took that quick 14-0 lead, they really demoralized FAMU, in my opinion, with the fake field goal. Um, it seems like when they got down, Willie Simmons and the coaching staff really panicked that they got away from their game plan too early and they got out of character. And when you do that against a team like a Southeastern in a playoff environment, is going to get you beat every time. I mean, Bishop Bonnet had 9 carries. McKay was second on the team with 4. McLeod and Jennings combined for 5 carries for 5 yards, guys. That's just not going to work. Overall, as a team, FAMU had 53 total yards rushing on 19 carries. That's less than 3 yards a carry and didn't find the end zone. And their longest rush of the night was a 10-yard run by Bishop Bonnet. That was never going to win you the football game this weekend. And there were times where the defense looked like they could stand up, but ultimately the defense failed them as well. I mean, allowing Cole Kelly 345 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Antoine Collier got a huge pick, but then on the other side, they allowed Southeastern to rush for over 150 yards this weekend as well and a touchdown. They weren't efficient. They averaged less than 4 yards to carry, but they used what FAMU was supposed to do. Even if you weren't efficient, FAMU, you had to pound the football and keep this offense on the sideline, and you could not establish drives all night long. I mean, this game was 38-0 until Southeastern benched their starters and FAMU scored two late fourth quarter touchdowns. And you look at how Southeastern did it. They had like 10 different guys catch a pass on Saturday night. And their top player, Austin Mitchell, who was one of the top wide receivers in the Southland, only had 3 catches for 20 yards. Nolan Given was just a matchup nightmare at the tight end spot for FAMU. 6 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. FAMU had no one to match up on them, and for FAMU's safeties to be the strength, you would figure that they would give that matchup to a Marquise Beller and Antoine Collier, and Nolan Given just absolutely couldn't be contained. And Taryn Jones at the running back spot, I don't know. Listen, and I talked to a player's dad Saturday night. And he asked me, he was like, "Man, did you see a FAMU linebacker make a play last night?" And I went back and watched the game today. The linebackers had zero awareness of the running back coming out of the backfield. Cole Kelly would go through all his reads downfield, and every time it wasn't there, he would just dump it off to the running back in open space, and there wouldn't be anybody within a country mile of him in out of the backfield in the flats. The linebackers had to do better. The linebackers weren't there in the rushing attack either. I mean, Marquise Bell had 16 tackles. There was no second level help for FAMU, and I really think that was one of the biggest things this weekend that cost the Rattlers this game. And on top of that, man, 11 penalties for 107 yards. And I understand everyone's going to say the refs are biased, this and that. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was that. I mean, FAMU made some uncharacteristic mistakes down the stretch. There were some calls that really FAMU made, and they played uncharacteristically sloppy football at times. 2 for 11 on third downs, less than 300 total yards against a defense that was giving up just tons of yardage to everybody this season. So for me, this quite possibly was the worst case scenario for FAMU. You couldn't run the ball. You put the game in Rashawn McKay's hands. Your great wide receiving core has drop problems. You're playing undisciplined, getting penalties left and right, and your defense lets you down the stretch. I mean, it was a recipe for disaster for Willie Simmons and Florida A&M, man. And I really was expecting a better performance from the Rattlers this weekend, but overall, I mean, it was a learning experience for this team, and I think overall, I give FAMU a lot of credit for stepping into the playoffs, going to Hammond and playing this game. So I think overall, it was a positive. I wouldn't say a positive experience because I still think you should have played better, but I still give FAMU a lot of credit for going to take this game, and I think it's a huge first step in the SWAC establishing themselves back into the FCS playoffs. Now, you do have that, goose egg hanging over your head where I believe it's like 0-19 or 0-20 now in the FCS playoffs, and that has to be broken. But moving forward, I think FAMU should, at least laid the groundwork for the SWAC, consistently sending at least one of their teams to the playoffs. And I think I'm going to be interested to see how it works going into the coming years. But overall, a terrible game plan by FAMU this weekend, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. But the Rattlers fall 38-14 in Hammond. But we had another huge game this weekend, man. The Bayou Classic as Grambling pulled off the 29-26 upset in New Orleans over Southern this weekend, and it was Elijah Walker's show this weekend, man. He might have been 9 for 20 for only 153 through the air and a touchdown, but 168 rushing yards, over 8.5 yards per carry, and a rushing touchdown. Listen, I said this on BJ Jones' show yesterday. As much as you could say he was inefficient, every time Grambling seemed to need a play in a crucial moment, Elijah Walker somehow came through. Yes, he might not have been completing passes at a high level. Yes, he may not have been doing it down in and down out. But when it came down to needing a play to win this game, Elijah Walker was able to make it happen. Also, CJ Russell at the running back spot had a huge day, 101 yards rushing. I mean, Grambling rushed for 347 yards and 7 yards per carry this weekend. Had a big rushing touchdown too. for me, looking at this game, the rushing game was the difference. And I have to ask, where is Southern's defensive front? Coming into the season, everyone thought the strength of this defense was going to be in the front seven. They got no penetration this weekend. They were not able to play in Grambling's backfield, and Grambling's offensive line absolutely put on a show this weekend in terms of paving the way for this rushing attack. And for me, I have a lot of question marks about what the defensive strategy was for Southern coming into this one. You knew Elijah Walker wasn't going to be the most efficient thrower of the football. So, how in the world did you manage to get dominated up front like you did by this Grambling offensive line? And then for Grambling's defense, man, let's give them a round of applause. I mean, they did a solid job on the defensive end, man. They were only giving up field goals. They held the Darius Skelton under 130 passing yards, got a huge pick. And yeah, they gave up some big plays in the rushing game, but I think they did relatively well against some of the top backs for Southern. Gerard Sims only 71 yards rushing. Kobe Dillon only 33 yards rushing. Devin Ben only had one carry, but it was a 22-yard explosion. But I think the rushing stats for Southern are a bit inflated. I went back and watched the replay of this game. I mean, you look, OJ Tucker's explosive 20-yard run, Devin Ben's 22-yard explosive run, Marquise McLean, that 18-yard jet sweep, and then a 21-yard scramble against Skelton accounted for like 40 something percent of the total yards. I feel like Grambling did well enough in their run defense to win this game. And when you look at Grambling, you look at Greg White at the wide receiver spot, had a big game, 79 yards receiving, a touchdown, almost 20 yards per catch. And I thought overall, Grambling's offense, shockingly, listen, this is going to sound so crazy. Grambling's offense won the game, man, 500 total yards, and they averaged over 7 yards per play and controlled the clock for almost 35 minutes of time of possession. Grambling Southern. They won the line of scrimmage, they ran the football, and they played solid defense. I mean, it was literally Southern's playbook to a T, and that's why on Scotty's roundtable, I said Southern was going to win because they were going to run it down their throat. Well, Grambling completed over 50% of their third downs because they were consistently in third and manageables. And for me, I like the fact that Southern went with Ladarius Skelton at quarterback. I thought that was a good move. And you saw Southern play a bit more inspired football. But for as much flack, too, I want to end on this point. For as much flack as SWAC kickers get, the kick in this game was pretty good. I believe there was one extra point missed on Southern side, but 5 for 5 for Grambling and including the game winner. And for me, I think it was a good weekend in New Orleans for SWAC kicking. I know a lot of people really hammer SWAC kicking, but it was a great weekend at the Bayou Classic. And also, you've got to question Rotland's coaching. The way he managed those timeouts down the stretch really raised some red flags for me. The fact that you could have given yourself at least just a chance or two to give yourself an opportunity to win or tie the game again really made me wonder. Was he? I'm really not sure the mindset that he had late in the game because I really feel like if he would have managed his timeouts better down the stretch and not waited all the way to the end of the game, that Southern could have had a chance to win this game. And I was really questioning the coaching decisions down the stretch on how to manage those timeouts late in that game. But overall, man, Elijah Walker gets the MVP award for this game. Had a huge game on the ground, made just enough plays through the air. And if you're Southern, man, I think my guy BJ Jones today or on Sunday said it the best. Hey, at least your season's over. Now you can regroup, get a new coaching staff in, get a new head coach, and get this team ready for next season. I mean, it was a very tough season for Southern, but I mean, it was listen, for a game, and BJ Jones said this too, for a game that had no SWAC implications for a long time in the long line of important Bayou Classics. This one lived up to the hype, and I know everyone was clowning this game coming into the week, saying it didn't matter. But this game lived up to the hype, and if you didn't get to see it, man, go catch the replay. I believe you could still find it on demand on the NBC website or NBC Sports Network website. Go watch this game because it lived up to the hype. But Grambling pulls out a 3-point win in the Bayou Classic to snap their losing streak to Southern. And the last game, man, Mississippi Valley State pulls off the 24-19 road upset over PV this weekend. And listen, there's one name, man. It's been a super long time on this game. The only name that matters here is Caleb Johnson, man. 40 carries, 193 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. This kid, listen, I always joke about Shador putting his O line on his back. Caleb Johnson packed up all of Itabina in his backpack, put it on his shoulders, and ran up and down the field this weekend with the entire Mississippi Valley State football program on his back. He was a one man a show this weekend. And I got to give him all the credit in the world. And also, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Jelani Eason, man. As much flack as he gets at the quarterback spot, 8 for 12, 182, and a touchdown. He was efficient and effective. You got to give Mississippi Valley State credit. They know Eason's not a guy who can drop back and throw it a million times. So they said, we're going to run Caleb Johnson into the ground, work off of the run, and give Eason some high percentage throws. And it worked. Listen, Mississippi Valley State must have listened to my FAMU Southeastern Louisiana episode and took the game plan perfectly. This should be what the box score looked like for FAMU. Bishop Bonnet should have 40 damn carries, and Rashawn McKay should have 12 attempts. Instead, it was the complete opposite against FAMU. But that's another tangent. But listen, Ja'Cory Rankin, I really like this kid, man, at wide receiver from Mississippi Valley State. He is lightning in a bottle. A huge 60-yard touchdown, had 79 yards receiving this weekend. And I also want to give a shout out, man. Mississippi Valley's defense played lights out this weekend. Held Prairie View to under 300 total yards, held them to 79 yards rushing, less than 3 yards per carry, forced 3 big turnovers, and just controlled the clock and dominated the game. Mississippi Valley State's D-line had an outstanding game this weekend, and it just shows week in and week out that Valley is going to play everybody hard, and it was another story of that this weekend. Jawan Pass did not look 100% healthy to me. I mentioned that, and he looked probably like 65% healthy right now, man. I mean, 21 for 36, 2 picks, no touchdowns. He just looked off. He was out of rhythm all game, and that mobility looked like it. He looked like he didn't have the same type of mobility that he usually has. Also, the running game, man, zero running game this weekend, man. Jaden Stewart couldn't get anything going on the ground. They were missing Brooks at the running back spot, but I mean, Jaden Stewart only three yards per carry. He did have 3 rushing touchdowns, but if you're only averaging 2 yards a rush against Mississippi Valley's front seven at home, man, that's got to raise major concerns against Jackson State this weekend in the SWAC championship. That was one of the keys that if you would have asked me after that Southern game about why Prairie View is a bad matchup for Jackson State, it was because how balanced they were. And this weekend, they didn't show any balance whatsoever on the field. And it kept them in third and longs, only 5 for 12 there. And they just couldn't consistently move the football. And you cannot have the turnover bug this weekend. And the vet, Jackson State, is going to turn those turnovers into points. And just like this weekend, it cost you the game. It will cost you even more in the SWAC championship going into next week. But let's give Vincent Dancy his props, man. He had Mississippi Valley in almost every single game this year. They were playing lights out in the biggest moments. And all these big teams that came to face Valley outside of maybe one or two had their work cut out for them for at least a quarter or two, and they gave everyone their best shot, and they got some big upsets this year. So let's give Valley a lot of props for how they've been playing. But Prairie View, man, this 3-game losing streak has really taken the wind out of the sails of all the momentum in this program. And on top of that, your head coach is linked to the Southern head coaching job. I really question where the mindset might be for Prairie View going into next weekend's SWAC championship. But guys, huge win for Valley this weekend, 24-19 over Prairie View. But the other final SWAC takeaways this weekend, man, I mentioned the momentum for Prairie View is all over the place. Also, the Turkey Day Classic, man, Alabama State dominated Tuskegee. I want to give a shout out to Joe Owens Jr., man, 20 for 27, 200 yards passing and a touchdown. He had a giant game. Ja'Cory Merritt did it again with 2 rushing touchdowns. And, man, can we please put some respect on my man Irshad Davis's name? Another pick, 6 tackles, 2 more pass breakups, and was all over the field for the Hornets. Earshot Davis has a legit future at that DB spot for Alabama State, man. So give that guy a lot of his praise. But guys, as we end the show, man, the time is here. The 2021 SWAC Fall Championship is here. We have Prairie View, 7-4, traveling to the vet to take on 10-1 Jackson State. Listen, they've released a spread already for this game. As of tonight, when I'm recording, Jackson State is a 7-point favorite. The over-under is set at 43 and a half. So for you betting people out there, in a game that kicks off 3 p.m. Central Time on ESPN2. I hate the fact they put this game at 3 p.m. Central Time. That's the exact same time that Georgia, Alabama are playing a 1 versus 2 matchup. I really wish they would have got a better time slot, but you can't. I guess that probably was already determined. But I think they got arguably the worst time slot for Saturday. I would love to see this game be in prime time, like at 6 p.m. Central, and go up against one of the more favorable matchups in conference championship week. But make sure to tune in. Listen, even if you're going to watch another game, make sure to at least have it on your phone, something. I already know there's probably 3 or 4 channels on YouTube that's going to be streaming the game. Make sure to do that as well. Listen, got to support this game, drive the ratings up. So make sure to tune in this weekend, 3 p.m. Central Time on ESPN2. Also, our SWAC championship preview will be out Friday morning, 8 a.m. Central Time. It's dropping. Make my official predictions and give you all those in-depth game breakdowns that you can't find on any other YouTube channel anywhere, man. But listen, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving with y'all's families, man. Happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to your family from me and mine, man. But listen, if you're still traveling on Monday, please be safe on your way back home or wherever you may be traveling, guys. But listen, tune in tonight for our round 1 FCS recap. FAMU fans, please come in. Let me know your opinions. You can voice your frustrations at me. I also pick FAMU. I'll have some to voice as well. But guys, until tonight and until later this week, man, the Blue Bloods are out.